Hello, welcome to our bookshop again. This is actually a special event. This is our first ever book club meeting, which is rather lovely, or children's book club meeting. And so we're doing a year 3 book club meeting. We've got Bex Hogan and her wonderful book, Bronte Tempestra and the Lightning Steeds. People of a certain age, and I did discuss it with Bex. Think of lightning steeds, not lightning steeds. But Bex had never heard of the lightning seeds, had you?
Nope, no, completely went over my head.
Excellent. It was. I can't believe the publisher didn't say something. But
no one said anything to me until reviews were coming in, and I was like, why do people keep mentioning lightning seeds? I don't know what this is.
Lovely. Hello from Aston Clinton as well. So listen, we'll do a little bit of chat, and then you're going to give a little presentation of some bits that provided you with some inspiration. I've actually got a big list of questions from children who submitted them in. Thank you to those classes that did. Ronetka from Durlow, I've got all the questions, and Samantha Whitehead's class and Hannah Law's class. So I'm actually going to work my way through those and let them be the question masters. If you want to put any questions in yourself, use the chat function, please. Unless you're watching the recorded one where you can't. So sorry about that. So Beck, tell me, I'm going to start with the questions, and the children will know whose questions have been asked. Who was your greatest inspiration when you were growing up in terms of, maybe one day becoming an author?
So yeah, I'll be honest. When I was little, I wasn't a huge reader, and lots of authors grow up and they just always had their sort of nose in a book. But I am. We were just saying. I'm a really slow reader, and as a kid I was really super slow, and so I really have to credit my mum, because my mum was an English teacher. She's retired now, and she was brilliant at letting me go at my own pace and finding the books that were right for me. So my brother was like a huge reader and he loved everything, but I couldn't get into a lot of things, so my mum really helped me find the kind of books for me. So I was a huge pony lover, and there was
did you have a favorite book as a child?
Yeah, so I really read the Saddle Club books. I don't know if they're like quite old now, but they were like pony driven stories that really encouraged me to enjoy reading. But in terms of a book that's inspired me most of anything, is the book my mum read to me when I was little. I've got it here to show you. Super duper old copy of Grimm's Fairy Tales. And this was my mum's copy when she was a kid. And this is what she read to me as a sort of bedtime story. All the proper dark.
Has it got pictures? Has it got pictures inside it?
It's
old school.
Not many. It's such an old copy, and my mum drew in it. But I don't think it's got any illustrations in this version.
Wow.
Just my mum's scribbles that she put in it.
So if you weren't much of a reader, what made you want to become an author? What was your
So yeah, I may not have been much of a reader, but I have always loved stories. And I always say to kids, however you love stories, whether that's through books or through watching films, or perhaps even just playing out in the playground or at home with your toys, however you kind of create those narratives, that's all good. And it's led me to where I am today, just being a lover of stories.
Nice. So I've got a load of other questions, but I know that we want to do this little presentation, John. And it leads from a question that one of the children asked. What inspired you to write the book, this particular book?
This particular book. Okay, so authors get their inspiration from all sorts of weird and wonderful places. You never quite know when it's going to strike. And for me, it was during the first COVID lockdown, and somebody I was chatting to made some comment about how they would like to do a course at night school, and they meant doing a class in an evening. All I heard was a school for nights, night school, and I was like, okay, I have to write a book at a night school, because I've always kind of loved that medieval sort of world and knights and princess stories. I was like, right, that's it, that's my next book. So then of course you then think, well, how am I going to write this story? And as a lover of these stories, I knew that there were certain things that people expect in these stories. but as a writer, you want to do something new and something different, and you want to put a spin on the familiar and make it a little unfamiliar. So one of the elements I want to talk to you guys about today was I really wanted to include jousting in my book. So for those of you who don't know what jousting is, during the medieval times, there would be these huge tournaments that would be put on maybe for like a big royal wedding or a coronation, and they would last for several days, and the knights would come and they'd put on all sorts of displays to show off, really. And jousting is when two knights would be on their horses and they'd have these long jousting poles and they'd have all their armor on and they would charge at each other and they would try and knock each other off, and there would be rounds of it until there was one knight who was crowned the best. So I don't know if any of you have ever seen any jousting, but if you haven't, I have some photos of a reenactment that I was lucky enough to see. Let me just share this with you guys. So I was lucky enough to see a jousting tournament in the south of France at a place called Carcassonne. And here they are, the beautiful knights on their horses. So as you can see, they've got all that armor on and they've got flags to say who they represented. I don't know if any of you guys ride horses at all, but this would be so hard to do on horseback. They're sort of
can't even imagine.
Speed, and they've got their weapons and they're trying to strike each other. And you can see why they wanted this opportunity to show off and show how good they were. Because they were really very good. I mean, this guy can probably hardly see a thing.
Imagine he's got that helmet on, and all he can see is a tiny little line.
It's amazing. And then, of course, not only did they joust with each other, they also did lots of sort of target practices and just lots of things to show how good they were and how skilled they were. So this guy here is just doing a little bit of target practice.
Nice.
But here, the thing that always used to disappoint me was that the girls just had to sit there and they just had to watch and not be part of the fun. And as somebody who would rather have been on horseback and in the thick of the action, this really disappointed me. So when I had this idea that I was going to write a book set in a night school, and I knew I wanted to include lots of these medieval sort of things, things that I loved, like jousting, but I wanted to make it a bit different. So I thought, well, obviously the big difference is that I've got my princess is a knight herself and she's in the action. But I was thinking very specifically about jousting and how I could make it unique to my book. So one of the top tips I have for any little writers out there is when you're writing something, and especially if you've got an idea that's quite familiar, is ask yourself questions all the time, like an annoying little sibling who asks why all the time. And ask yourself questions, push the boundaries until you come to an idea that really sticks. And for me, I was thinking, how can I make jousting different? Maybe instead of horses, you guys may have read the book already. You already know the answer to this. But I wanted to make, instead of horses, I wanted my knights to be riding battle boars instead, a big giant pig. This here is Sir Ripple, one of the teachers who is a jousting champion, on his magnificent battle boar. So that just came from me wanting to put my own spin on jousting. Now, another little top tip for any writers out there. So as I said before, I wasn't a huge reader and I did a lot of my narrative creation as a kid through play, and I still do a lot. I don't know if any of you guys like Lego, but I love Lego and I use it a lot in terms of building worlds and having a play around and seeing what I can do. And I like to make Lego figures of my characters. So I'm hoping you can see that's my Lego Bronte. Get it to go into focus for you. So with Bronte, all I did was get some blue nail polish and put a little streak through her hair. I'm sure you guys could do these same kind of things if you've got any kind of characters you want to do. I made a little Lego Tonkins as well. With his
when we go to wider view again, because I know you've got other things to show us on this page.
Yeah, I can definitely
show us those again because they're very small.
But I also did a Lego Sir Ripple, which I can show you next to this. So this is the version in the book, and this is my Lego version of Sir Ripple. Obviously, not quite as scary looking, that pig. But then I thought what would be fun to show you is the difference between some real life jousting and my own Lego interpretation of it from the book. So here is some video of a real life jousting tournament. Here you go. There may be sound, just in case you're about to get blasted with it.
Is it playing? It is. Oof.
So you can see how high speed this is.
So, did they actually hit each other? Oh, that seems very dangerous.
Yeah, they do. I mean, obviously in these reenactments, they have jousting poles that splinter very, very easily, so nobody gets hurt. Okay, so that's real life jousting versus my Lego, my Lego interpretation.
You've animated this. Look at this.
So as you can see, I have a lot of fun having a play around with my Lego, and any of you guys can do this too. It's really, really easy. All you need is some toys, maybe a phone with a camera or another kind of camera, and a lot of patience, and you just take your photos each time you move them. You can get loads of free editing
Get help from mum and dad. That's the secret.
For a nice rainy Sunday or something, you can have a lot of fun, and it can help you to build ideas if you're wanting to write something.
I think most smartphones these days have some sort of animating function, don't they?
Yeah. Let me just show you these again on a slightly bigger screen, if I can get.
That's very good. So is that hand painted? That's with blue in the hair.
Yeah, nail polish. It took me ages. There we go.
Nice.
Okay, and then my little Lego Tonkins as well with his distinctive hat. So there you go.
Yes, love Tonkins. He's a great character. I assume he'll be back or when.
Yes, absolutely.
And so let's look at some of the questions, and thank you again from the various classes who go. Hannah Law's class, how did you come up with the characters? What was your so many characters in the book?
There are. So I mean, Bronte came first, really. I think Bronte's the kind of girl I would have loved to have been when I was younger. Kind of brave and really able to stand up for what she believes in, even when she's not sure. If she's the kind of person I'd have liked to have been when I was a kid, I think Tonkins really represents the kind of person I was as a kid. I'm much more on the kind of, oh, that seems a bit dangerous. Do we want to do that? Maybe we could just stay inside and not. Whereas Bronte's very driven to go out and do all the exciting things. So I think they're kind of two sides of my coin, really. And then in terms of somebody like Lord Errol, the Griffin Lord, so there was a character from long time ago. My mum had this statue of him. It's called Mr. Peanut, and he had a top hat and a cane and a little monocle, and that was kind of really much, I thought, Mr. Peanut in Griffin form was what inspired Lord Errol. So you kind of just take little bits of inspiration from all over the place. Sir Ripple is based on a teacher that I had as a kid who was he was not there for the kids. He was there because he wanted everyone to know how great he was. So yeah, you kind of take little bits of inspiration from all bits of your life, really.
Yeah. So that's a really, really lovely answer. Let's look at another question from the kids. And how did you choose the categories for all the kingdoms?
Oh, so that was the Weather Kingdoms came really quickly because I knew that I wanted to have the Storm Princess. I'm from Cornwall. The weather is always rainy and grey. So I kind of knew I wanted to have that. And then there was this thinking of expanding the kingdoms. So I just picked things that I like, really. So I love flowers. So the floral kingdoms came quite naturally from that. And then I love gemstones, and so do my kids. They've always collecting like pretty gemstones and stuff. So it felt kind of natural to then have those. But then the fun thing is to take those things that we know and think, well, how can I make them a bit different from from what we might automatically expect. So if you see the Storm Kingdom, you might just think it's going to be stormy, but their fun is how to create the storms coming from something a bit different and a bit more magical and unexpected.
Gosh, yeah, no, it's really good. And oh, yeah, this is a nice question from Miss Law's class. Why are there houses? Why are the houses in the trees?
Okay, so I think that's just really me having this kind of wish fulfillment of childhood, because I always wanted a tree house when I was a kid, but we never had a tree in our garden that was big enough or, you know, sturdy enough for a tree house. But I knew people that had them. I was so jealous. So when I was creating Sir Sebastian's, I just thought it would be, rather than it just being a castle, which, I mean, I love castles, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge castle fan, but I thought you could also have these big trees that far bigger than, you know, the kind of trees we would have normally, that could have all these different tree houses, so that the kids were basically kind of camping out in a way, although then we made them cozy and nice and lovely so that it was comfortable for the kids. But I think, yeah, just me wanting to incorporate things that I would have loved as a kid and made them real in the book. Because I kind of think if I would have enjoyed it as a kid, then my readers hopefully will enjoy it too.
That's where play comes from, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is a nice one. How long did it take to write this book?
Oh, it's a really good question. So the very first draft of the book, I think I probably wrote in about 2 weeks, which is quite quick. It's not a particularly long book, so my books that I write for teenagers take me quite a lot longer, because they're quite a lot longer. But one thing that authors do a lot of is rewriting and editing. So I don't know if the students out there are learning to do your editing with your work as you go. We do that a lot as authors. So my first draft was very much me getting the ideas down, and then I did a second draft that maybe took me a little bit longer, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, where I fleshed everything out and made the world bigger and scopier. So rather than just focusing on my character and what Bronte's mission was and how to make the world more exciting. And then you edit it again. I can't remember how many times I've edited and rewritten this book at this point, but it was at least 3 or 4 times before we took it out to publishers. And then you do at least 2 or 3 with your editor as well.
This isn't your first book, is it? How many books have you written?
So no, this is my first book for children, but no, this is my 5th book altogether. I wrote 4 other books previously, which are all YA books, so for teenagers, so 12 plus.
Yeah. So you already had the kind of experience of publishing a book, so that kind of sort of helps. And was your I was going to ask about agents and stuff, whether your agent was pleased with you moving into books for younger children. We're probably getting a bit technical here for children, but yeah.
Yeah, so I am very, very fortunate that my agent has been super supportive about me. She knows that I'm the kind of person who likes to just write whatever my random brain comes up with, and was very supportive about me writing about for younger children. And I have loved having the opportunity to be funny and silly and embrace that part of myself, which you don't get to do so much when you're writing for older people.
So this feeds into a question that's just been sent through on the Q&A from Windmills Junior School. So what's your favourite book that you've written?
Ooh.
Surely it's got to be this one.
Well, yeah, actually, I might even say my favourite book I've written is one that hasn't come out yet, and that is book 2 of the series, because I had a lot of fun writing book 2, and it's even sillier than book 1. So I think I might go for that as my favourite, but it's really hard. That's like asking me to pick a favourite child.
Yeah.
I might change my mind.
Well, let's put that in our diary. When is that book out? What's the?
Oh, let me show you. It is out. Bear with me a second.
I think it's August, July or August, isn't it?
Let me get past this video for you, which is not going to let me do.
You've got to watch it again.
Yeah, get all that fun again. It's just not going to let me show you the thing. Right, we'll abandon that plan. It's out on August the 1st. And
So what we need to do is get you to come and do some school visits in September. And
I would
so
love to do that and come
yeah,
and talk to you guys in person about it.
when all the children watching are going to be in year 4, so we've got to make sure year 4 for all these different schools are.
Yeah, that would be
watching.
perfect.
Let's do more questions from the children. How old were you when you published your first book, actually?
Oh, good question. So my first book debuted in 2019. So that was how many years ago?
5.
5 years ago, which means I would have been 37. So my journey in terms of, as a kid, as I said, I didn't really know I wanted to be an author. It really didn't seem like something that people like me did. I never even really considered that I could be an author. I was a slow reader. And that was what like clever people did, not daydreamers like me. But I think I was probably in my early 20s when I realized I was writing anyway, and the stories were coming out anyway. It then took me probably a little bit longer to have the courage to share my work with anybody, but it took me 10 years from writing my first book, which wasn't my one that was published. The first book that I wrote and sent out to agents with the hope to get published, it took me 10 years between that and my first book being published in 2019. So it is something that, you do have to work really hard for, and you need a lot of luck, but it's worth it.
Yeah. So Miss Saunders, is it Miss Saunders? Where did you get the name Bronte Tempestra from, and what was your favourite chapter to write?
Oh, well, the name Bronte Tempestra, it's a good question. Bronte means thunder. So I was really looking for a name that suited a storm princess. And Tempestra, as you probably know, the word tempest means storm. So it was just kind of playing around with that. I felt like that would be the right kind of name for a royal family in the Storm Kingdom. That was why Bronte Tempestra. And a favourite chapter is, that's a tough question. There's a scene with the Gauntlet Run. I don't know if you remember that, where she has her first weapons training lesson and she has to accidentally gets given this very scary gauntlet run to try. I had a lot of fun writing that. So it was quite a tricky one to write, to keep it. Action is always quite tricky to write, to make it clear what's happening, but make it interesting to read. I had a lot of fun with that one.
That was quite scary because she did the full run, knowing when she was supposed to do the other one behind the curtain, which was very funny.
You shouldn't have been doing that, naughty Sir Ripple.
Was your school like Sebastian's school for squires?
I wish. I really do wish that it had been. The only similarity, and it was something that I wanted to explore, is my secondary school had recently only been for boys. And I think it had only been open to girls as well for about a year or two before I joined. And it was very interesting watching them try and adjust and adapt to having girls there, and how the dynamic shifted. So that was something I kind of thought would be fun to explore. As for my primary school, no, my primary school was very ordinary and lovely, but no tree houses, no jousting. But that's what we do. We write what we would have loved to have had the opportunity to do. I probably would have been rubbish, to be fair, at it, because I wasn't sporty and I'm very clumsy. But in my imagination, I'd have been great.
You'd have been great. Jessica from 3T, and I haven't got to know which school that is. Have you ever made any big mistakes when writing your stories?
Yes, I think every author, especially in a first draft, you take. So I'm editing book 3 of Bronte at the moment, and I'm doing a big structural edit, and I'm having to unpick a lot because I've put too much in of something that doesn't really matter. It's more just something that I thought would be fun, but I've only got 20,000 words, and so I'm going to have to unpick all that and then figure out how to make the rest of the story work. So yeah, a lot of writing is making mistakes along the way, and that's great because we all make mistakes, and that only way to learn is by making mistakes and getting better. So yeah, I definitely make mistakes.
Nice. That question was from Turn Furlong School. Another question: do you like storms?
Do I like storms? Yes, if I'm in a safe, cozy place. When I went to the south of France, when I was seeing the Carcassonne reenactment, there's a lot of storms down there because it gets very, very hot. And they have brilliant fork lightning, which we don't tend to see as much. We get mostly the kind of that kind of boring flash lightning here, but the fork lightning was amazing and dramatic. But I was very glad I was in my house and I was not out in the rain. So yeah, I do love them to watch, but yeah, only when I'm warm and dry.
Well, I think we can all agree with that. And there was a question which I'll come to later, but we've only got 3 or 4 minutes left, but I'll save that one there. Who is your favorite character in the story?
Oh, such a good question.
It can't be Bronte, because I think Bronte's
No. I'm very fond of Tonkins, but from a writing perspective, Sir Ripple is the most fun to write because he's just so ridiculous, and he's very silly. So I might choose him, but again, it's very hard. I might change my mind depending on the day.
Yeah, everyone loves a character like Sir Ripple. There's a similar one in Harry Potter as well. I can't remember his name. Who plays one of the teachers?
Oh yes, Gilderoy.
Kenneth Branagh, Gilderoy Lockhart. That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so yeah, he is quite similar, isn't he? Yeah, that kind of. I think just everybody knows a teacher like that.
I'm sure there's no teachers at any of the schools watching like that. Watching.
There's more brilliant teachers out there.
There are. Right, penultimate question. Why did you want the princess to be a knight in an all-boys school?
So I really wanted to sort of explore this idea that, in a lot of the books, certainly that I was reading as a kid, the knights rescued the princesses. And I really wanted to have it flipped on its head so that the princess could be the other way around. She's rescuing the knights in this one. And exploring that dynamic of a girl in a male dominated world. And I think a lot of girls will know that feeling as they grow up, that it does often feel like you're trying to find your place in quite a male dominated world. And as I said before, having gone to that kind of a boys' school that was just opening its doors, I thought it was quite rich, fertile ground, kind of for tensions and conflicts and stuff.
Yeah. I think Yusuf has asked a question from Term Furlong. So, will a movie be made from any of your books? Let me extend that question to if a movie is made of this, who will the characters be played by? Are there any famous?
I mean, it would be the dream. I think all authors would agree that having a movie made of their book would be the dream. I don't know who would play I think you'd have to get some brilliant newcomers to play the kids, wouldn't you?
You would.
But you could probably find some good people to step in for the teachers, I think.
Oh. Listen, we've got 1 minute left, so tell us about your next book and what's coming out next. That was the last question we had.
Yeah, so book 2, Bronte Tempestra and the Ice Warriors, coming out on August the 1st. So what can I tell you about it? It is set at the end of Bronte's first term. So this is very much the beginning of her first term. So she's already been there for a little while now. And this time she's up against some frosty foes, as the title suggests. There's going to be some new characters coming to join them, who I've had a lot of fun writing, as well as all our favourites are returning. And of course, there is a new quest for Bronte to go on.
Nice. That's very exciting.
Hopefully.
So I will have a word with your publishers to make sure we get some of your time
I'd love that. Yeah.
September, beginning of the September term.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Listen, thank you so much, Bex, for joining us for this event. Thank you to all the schools who joined in, with all their Year 3 children. We're going to be doing, there's a Year 4 book club, which actually we're going to extend the date because of Easter. So we are, the book club meeting won't be until sometime in May, probably towards the end of May, actually. So thank you once again to everyone who joined. My next virtual event is actually this one with a big post-it on it. So we've got Ashley Fowler on Thursday, I think it is, talking about Fireboard. Once more, thank you, Bex,
Thank you.
and we'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye.